Yo guys, Professor Theo here on Common Sense. Welcome back to another lecture. Today we'll be talking about bulking. Bulk 101, everything you need to know about bulking. And most of you will have at least some idea of what that means. But basically, bulking means actively eating more in order to fuel training performance and progress and put on body weight. And typically, bulking is something you do when you want to put on more muscle mass, right? And it's bulking season. I'm gonna start bulking myself soon, and I get asked quite often about bulking, like, is it really necessary? Do I have to bulk in order to put on muscle? So we'll be going through all of that in today's lecture. So first of all, why bulk? Well, it does yield superior gains within a certain span, okay? Because there are certain situations that we're gonna get to where you could put on muscle mass without actively eating more, but at a certain point, let's put it like this. Training is always the most important thing in order to put on muscle. That's when we plant the seed for muscle growth, and then we water it with nutrition, food, and sleep. And within a certain span, eating more just means that we water it more so that the flower can grow bigger, right? So it's not the more you eat, the more muscle you grow, but within a certain little span, it is true. So basically, the biggest enhancement the natural lifter will ever get is eating in a calorie surplus, all right? The second thing is just how else would you get big? How would that happen, right? Take me, I weigh 85 kilos right now, quite lean. I would estimate that when I started 6 years ago, at the same level of leanness, I would probably weigh, at the very tops, 70 kilos, maybe 68 kilos. So that's something like 17 kilos or 40 pounds of muscle mass. Where would that have come from? If not from eating more, right? How are you gonna make up more mass without adding mass onto you? Where would that extra muscle weight come from? Of course, if you want to get bigger at the same level of leanness, you're gonna have to get building blocks from somewhere, right? You're gonna have to bulk at some point. So who should bulk? Well, I put intermediate plus here, and that means like how advanced you are as a natural bodybuilder, kind of. But I don't just mean like from a muscle gains perspective. It's like how skilled are you? How well do you master diet, right? Are you able to cut down when you want to? Because some people, they really shouldn't bulk because, I mean, they are always kind of bulking. They can't even get lean. They maybe have learned to train all right, you know, to make some progress, but they're sort of in a permabulk mode, and that person they don't need to bulk at all, even if they have some muscle mass, right? So I mean that when you kind of master diet, you're in control of what you eat, and you've made pretty solid training progress, doing cycles of bulking and cutting is just a superior way to put on muscle mass, keep making progress, right? And then I just put the skinny individual, like the only one that should bulk when they're like a beginner, not that advanced yet, is someone that is like really skinny. Like not skinny fat, that, oh yeah, they're kind of skinny, but they're also soft, they also have extra body fat. No, I mean like an actual skinny individual. It's like you just gotta eat from the beginning. You don't have any stored energy really to tap into, right? So it becomes a little bit that the hard gainer, the more skinny person that feels like they've always been skinny, have a harder time putting on weight. When you get more advanced, you almost become a bit like that because you've just put on more muscle mass and you have a way higher metabolism. But yeah, these are the kinds of people that should bulk because, let's put it like this, even if you're more advanced muscle mass-wise, but you cannot see your abs, you don't need to bulk, okay? You can tap into, as long as you eat enough protein and around your calorie maintenance, you can make up some, like what I say is that bulking, it's not really that we have to be in a calorie surplus. We have to have, the body has to feel like it has an abundance of energy, right? So if you're getting your protein, you're getting your micronutrients, and you have a bunch of stored body fat, you can make up this calorie surplus, in a sense, from your own body fat. It's like you're bulking on your own body fat, right? Same thing, just a beginner that finds himself in the average shape that people are today, skinny fat, a bit under muscle, a bit too much fat, they also do not have to bulk to begin with. They can eat at their maintenance or slightly below, enough protein, crush their workouts, and they're gonna put on muscle and burn fat. And then at some point, that's gonna slow down, and that's when you're gonna decide, okay, do I want to cut down or am I ready to bulk more now, right? And then how, all right? I put a 500 maximum calorie surplus because more than that, like I said, within a certain span, it might be, okay, 500 calorie surplus, I make better gains than on just 100 calorie surplus, but 1,000, not really, you're just gonna end up putting on unnecessary fat. So if you go to a calorie calculator, put in your honest stats, which, unless you're an extreme individual, like extremely skinny or extremely overweight, they are usually accurate enough as long as you're honest. And then just aim to eat more than that, but not above 500 calories, right? And that's, let's jump to this point. That should yield a 2 pound or 1 kilo weight gain per month. And that's a good ratio. Like when you initially start bulking, like when you go from eating the way you do into a calorie surplus, you might see an initial like larger bump in the body weight because the body just adjusts. It's like, even if you've been cutting, you eat in a calorie deficit, and you see a certain weight on the scale, if you start eating more again, even without going into calorie surplus, you're gonna see a bump in the weight because now you constantly have more just food in your system. This food will hold more water, you know. So we have to realize that when we change our diet, it's like the opposite too, of course. If you're gonna start cutting and you go down in calories, you might see a little drop directly from holding less water and all of that. So we're not talking about like what happens just initially, but over time when you're bulking, because it's something you're gonna be wanting to do for longer amounts of time. You know, we'll get to that. But like consider throughout the longer bulk, this ratio or this rate of weight gain is what you'd like to see. And I put here mostly whole foods, all right? Like, of course, the more just real healthy food you can eat, the better, always. But for some, again, for the like skinny hard gainer, like naturally high metabolism or just having some issues with appetite first, you might have a really hard time to just eat enough to gain weight if you're eating just whole foods. Same thing goes for someone like myself. Like now I know that when I start bulking, yeah, I can eat just more real food, but there's gonna come a point where it gets really difficult and I have to eat so much, like spend so much time and effort into like buying, preparing and eating food, just like a job, you know. And sometimes it has to be a little bit like that with the bulk, where we gotta realize that if I eat 80 to 90% just good foods, you know, my red meat, my eggs, rice, potatoes, vegetables, fruit, honey, you know, if I eat like a pizza or something here and there to push me over the edge into weight gain, it's a completely different story to if I was just eating like pizza and donuts, that's all I eat, right? Like you want to go for a solid foundation of healthy whole foods, and if you can gain weight with just them, great, but it's not the end of the world for someone that's mostly eating healthy food and training, exercise, living a good lifestyle to throw in a little bit of this, right? It's about balance, and to me it's just like, it's just not worth it to have to spend such an extreme amount of time and energy on eating that I'll happily just throw, that's my go-to. I throw in a pizza here and there on top of my good food. Maybe I'll buy some chocolate or something, maybe I'll bake some cookies that I know that the ingredients are good, not some hyper-processed cookie, right? Yes, and then we want to watch the scale and our lifts, right? In order to know, like really the most important thing is to see that the lifts are going up all the time, because if your lifts keep going up, you must be making training progress, you must be making gains, but we're gonna want to watch the scale at some point too, because like if our lifts stall and we also see that our body weight stalls, well, now it's time we have to push a bit harder, we have to eat a bit more. I'm gonna tell you a little bit how I do it when we get to that point, but that's what you wanna watch. Like you eat, you watch your food that you eat up to 500 calories above your maintenance, and then you just, to confirm that everything is going the way you want, we keep watching our scale and lifts. We want to see just the lifts going up in any way and about 2 pounds to a kilo body weight gain per month. All right. So how long? This is an interesting one because, well, what most people struggle with, or not most, but many people struggle with fitness is that they kind of cannot decide, like whether that's a program or just, oh, I want to cut, I want to get lean, but I also want to build muscle, you know, and they kind of hop back between the two, or like changing programs all the time. and you gotta stick with, that's the thing, to get results. Of course, I talk about cycles of bulking and cutting, we'll get to that. But the cycles are not like, oh, I bulk for 2 weeks, I cut for 2 weeks, or not even a month. I say bulk for at least 3 months at a time. Preferably more. Like, honestly, a good way to approach it for a natural lifter is to be in a small calorie surplus for the most time of the year, and then cut, once do the big cut, maybe during this bigger amount, like longer time of being in a small calorie surplus, maybe do a mini cut, you know. But really, the more often we can find ourselves in a calorie surplus, the better for our training progress and gains. So, but yeah, what I wanted to say is, like, because I'm going to tell you how I do it specifically, but most people should put like at least 3 months to bulking. But if you're a younger guy, now is where some of the stuff with like this skinny fat and intermediate goes out the window a little bit. Because honestly, if you're like a young guy and you're not necessarily like skinny, you know, but you're not fat either, but you know, you're skinny as you do not have so much. You're kind of skinny fat, but it's like you're young. You should focus on cultivating mass. That's the thing too, you know. We can do these cycles of bulking and cutting, but for some individuals that like you know, you're getting started and you're quite young, it's just going to be a good idea to let go of being lean for a bit. And of course, I want you to still do a bulk when you eat mostly healthy, not to just go complete pig. But honestly, I think even I would do that if I didn't, if my aesthetics didn't matter for like my content and my job and all that. I would probably, like, if I'm not seen as often, and that's a point, you know, I would probably have spent like 2 years in a row in a small calorie surplus or something, just to cultivate more mass, you know. So that's why how long you should do it for a longer amount of time. But some people, especially younger guys and girls, of course, you could even be in like a long state of a small calorie surplus before you even consider cutting. And that's the thing, if you can be patient like that, even if you'd like to be lean, it's going to be easier. The more muscle mass you have, the easier it is to cut, because your metabolism is just higher, right? And yeah, bulking, cutting cycles, I mean, kind of obvious, right? Like, yeah, we want to be bulking, like I said, even a majority of the time of the year, and then cut. And that it's for multiple reasons, right? It's, of course, because we don't want to, we're going to add some fat along with our muscle, but we don't want to keep doing that forever. We don't want to get too fat, right? So maybe we want to take a stop and cut sometimes, but it's actually also, it's kind of not just about like the look or health of your body weight, but from the purely bodybuilding perspective, you know, the body, if you've been eating a lot and just crushing, pushing progress with your training like that, you know, taking a little step back, cutting down into a lower body weight and doing it again, it's a little bit as if the body is more sensitive to the calorie surplus, the higher calories. And, you know, you can almost see food a little bit like a drug, you know, that if you take a drug over and over the same dose, like you build up resistance, tolerance. It's a little bit the same, like not that you just stop making gains in the calorie surplus, but it definitely seems like, you know, you cut down, and now you bulk up and you find like, you find a new, let's say at my peak bulk, I reach certain numbers on some lifts. Now I cut down, maybe on a bench press and stuff, I lose a little bit of strength in the process of cutting. But now as I start bulking again, I get back to my former peak numbers at a lower body weight. And this is what I gotta keep doing over and over, right? And yeah. Before I say how I do it, I just put fat here. Because honestly, that's the easiest thing. When we talk about ending up in a calorie surplus, wanting to eat mostly whole foods, but maybe sprinkling in some less than ideal foods there. If we really don't want to do that, like the easiest way to just increase how much energy we take in without adding those kinds of food is to just increase the amount of fat. Because fat is more calorie dense. Carbs and protein, they contain 4 calories per gram. Fat contains 9 calories per gram, so it's over twice as calorie dense. So just opting for fattier cuts of meats, you know, or if you do something like protein yogurt, like I will change that, for instance. I will start throwing in some more nuts in there instead of my rice puffs, because yeah, they're very calorie dense and high in fat, and you can just add more fat to your cooking, right? It's a great way for hard gainers, again, because it's so calorie dense. It's like you don't add so much volume with fats, but you add a lot of calories, right? So how I do it, I've just, since I started with all of this, after 2 years, I sort of found my system for bulking and cutting that I want to be following throughout the year. This is not to say that this is how you should do it. I'm just telling you how I found, how I like to do it. So right from around now, September, is when I will start bulking. And for me, I noticed that I like to this is what you're going to realize too. You should often not do what I do. It's very often the coach that's done all of these things and is such a nerd with it. I can go about and in complete control too. You know, I can go about it slightly differently. But I actually want to gain weight a little faster first, because I find that I get a bit tired of eating so much, but I can do it for a while. So it's almost like, you know how I talked about how you can make up missing calories from your body fat? It's like I almost get ahead with my bulk, so that maybe when I get a bit tired of eating so much, when I just go maybe back closer to my maintenance, I have put on some fat, so I'll still be able to make gains. And then I'll notice maybe like, okay, things are seem to stall now. It's time to push a bit more, you know. So I actually like to get a little head start with my bulk. I go quite aggressive with eating just real food first, then probably maintain the weight for a little bit. And when I notice somehow that my progress seems to be stalling, I did the same numbers on a bench press, 3 workouts in a row or something. That's when I'm like, okay, time to push it a little harder, right? Then, a bit incidentally, I do a sort of mini cut at the end of the year, because I've done a Christmas fast, a 5-day fast after Christmas. It's going to be the 5th year in a row now, I think. And it's not really something I do for weight loss, but obviously that happens when you fast for 5 days. It's more for me a sort of both mental, physical, spiritual reset for the new year. But of course I'll lose some fat there. So effectively my fast there becomes like a little mid-bulk mini cut. Then I'll go back to bulking again until somewhere around, like in a very similar way how I did it before, like maybe go a bit aggressive immediately after fast, chill a bit, watch my numbers, and when I feel things stall, push up the food again. Then in May or so, that's when I cut, and because I won't ever giga bulk and blow up completely, I won't have so much weight to lose, and because I'm quite skilled at cutting with the fasting I do, and that I will often get the job done within like 2 months or something. And then throughout the summer is where I sort of maintain a little bit. Like if anything, I'm lean bulking throughout the summer. Like I eat intuitively, I don't actively go for a surplus or deficit, but if anything, I try to eat more so I can make some training progress. But I will naturally here and there, because I'm not trying to be in a constant calorie surplus, I'll end up eating less on the day here and there, so I kind of maintain body weight in a way. But throughout the summer, you know, it's to be able to enjoy that aesthetic look a bit more after the cut, good for my content and all that too, but many people, I'm sure, feel that way about the summer, and that's when I focus a bit more on maybe some skill goals. Like I trained for the 1-arm chin-up and muscle-up this summer. Unfortunately, elbow got a little bit in the way of at least the 1-arm chin-up. I hit the muscle-up. But yeah, and so that's the kind of phase I've just kind of ended, and now we'll go into the bulk again. So guys, I'm hoping that was everything you need to know about bulking. Like, please ask your questions in the comments, of course. And do follow up, because this is of course just about the bulking aspect. I do have a video that's called Fitness Diet 101. So that's going to be good for just like what foods to eat, how to structure your diet and that. So please combine that video with this one and go get swole, get big, guys. So yeah, like and comment. Anything I missed, please ask me. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching too, getting jacked and stacked, mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind and soul, becoming that man or woman that just manifests this physique as an expression of who they are internally. External. The internal shows externally. So please send me a DM on Instagram or email me if you're interested. I'll get back to you. My different programs, all in the description below. You can pick up my training book, everything training, mindset, philosophy related that I think you need to know in order to go get jacked on your own. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement. So is this a mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. Embrace the bulk. Let's cultivate some mass. Peace.